live button. Yeah, we're live. Okay, good. We're live here. Welcome, everyone. This is the Wednesday night, July 30th already, 2014, Empower Network Team Certainty Google Hangout for prospective new members and new members as well, current members, I guess that is. I have with me Mr. Iron Dane Richards and Mr. Gary Smith below. How you doing, fellas?
Doing great.
Okay, good. Well, got a lot to talk about. You know, we'd even have an iPass 2 update for everyone tonight, and a few other good things to talk about. The topic for tonight, and by the way, I just welcome everyone in, and thank you for all the leaders, for all the people coming in tonight from around the the globe watching us. We have a huge contingency from overseas and around the world, and I know it's not sometimes convenient for you to pop in and catch us live. But for those of you that are watching it live, thank you for watching and taking the time away from your day and evening or wherever you're at in the world to watch us. If you're watching this on a replay or possibly listening to this on a replay on one of the radio stations we broadcast on the internet, thank you for taking the time to be with us tonight. We will give you an hour worth of good content tonight. Got a couple of surprises, tonight as well. As we let people gather in here, get their coffee and drinks and settle down here, any current events you guys want to chat about? Israel seems to be the top of the list over here, and I have this immigration issue here in Texas.
Oh yeah, that's right. You would.
And then we got the football season right around the corner. Actually, first football games this weekend.
Really?
Wow.
Were you aware of that, Mr. Smith?
No.
Yep. First football game, Hall of Fame game is Sunday night.
Heck of a deal.
I think it's Denver and Baltimore, maybe, I think. Something like that.
Wow. You're going to be changing equipment, Gary, on the kids here.
Yeah. Hey, baseball's officially over. We got our asses whooped every corner this weekend. It was fun times. Our 12-years-old played in the regional championship and just battled, getting in there, and then just got their asses kicked. They faced the pitcher. There was one kid. We couldn't put a player on a bag except for this kid that hit 2 home runs. Every time he went to the bat, he slapped it over the fence. And he was the only hits we had. Outside of that, we never put a man on. So
these are 4 baggers.
And the Legion team got dropped 2 squeakers and stayed. And then our 13 Babe Ruth got their butts kicked in Wood River, and so baseball's over. We're done. But I'll tell you what, that 12-year-old, I'll be anxious to watch that 60. It was a 60-foot. They called it weird. It wasn't the 12U. It was the 60-foot Cal Ripken championship, and it August 4th it starts down in Florida, and that Port Angeles team is going to be there that beat up on us, and I'll be anxious to watch them. They'll play that game on TV. They had 4 umpires on that 60-foot diamond. Me and Ryan were joking. Now that's a crowded diamond.
No.
You got the coaches, those base coaches out there, and you got the players, and you got 4 dudes in black. Good Lord. But, good little tournament. I mean, that, what was that, Kalispell, Montana? Beautiful facility. I mean, they put on a top-notch tournament.
Yeah, it sounds like they've earned it over the years, at least this year.
Yeah. I sent you a link, Mike, when we won that game and got into that championship. I thought, man, here we go. And then we just got our butts handed to us in a plate. That's a good.
Sometimes that happens,
Yeah. Well, that's what you are in these tournaments and championships. You're just looking for the team that's better than you are, and they found them.
Right.
They had to look pretty hard, but they found them.
Oh, that's too good. Too good.
That's fun.
All right, well, let's go ahead and get started tonight. We got a lot to go over, and this hour is going to go by real fast with this video that we have planned and a few other things here. So, the main thing, the topic we're going to talk tonight about is leadership. and how, with Empower Network, and what we as team leaders do, and why it's important, that we as team leaders, are doing what we're doing. We're not doing it necessarily, because we really are very good at it, but it needs to be done. And I can remember, and I'm sure you fellows can remember too, when we started doing these Google Hangouts over a year ago, how rusty we were, and camera shy we were way back then. And we've progressed quite a bit, and and that's just one of many examples, of leadership. But it's repetition, and we've also started our own businesses before, and me and Gary, especially, and Richard, or Mr. Iron Dane Richards as well, is that when you start multiple business, I can't tell you how many times I've failed in life, but to be a good leader, you have to understand that that's part of winning. That's part of failing and falling down, but knowing I'm gonna pick myself up and do what I need to do, to be successful and to be a leader, is what I have to do. I actually very much enjoy being a leader. Because I like caring for others. I like doing good things for other people. I enjoy doing that. Not only for my family, but for other people, and sometimes, many times, complete strangers. But when you have a common, when you're in a common area with people like Mr. Iron Dane Richards and Mr. Gary Smith that are here with us tonight, that have the same ideas, and Mr. Iron Dane Richards I've known for quite a while. Gary Smith I haven't. But Gary and I have the same, even though when we began working together, we didn't know each other, but we knew each other had the same desires, business-wise. And as viewers are watching this hangout we're doing right now, this philosophy of common goals is very, very powerful when you put it together in a large group. One person starting out on their own trying to accomplish something is quite difficult, in my opinion. If you have without a mentor or some sort of support mechanism, when you have a support mechanism the size of Empower Network, with the ingredients of Team Certainty and soon to be iPass as well, in my opinion, it's very difficult to fail. The failure comes from lack of desire and not being focused or priorities. So as tonight develops and we get into more of the stories each one of us has tonight, in our leadership qualities and what leadership means to everyone, I want the viewers to understand that coming together with a common goal is very powerful. And each one of you guys, Mr. Iron Dane Richards and Gary Smith, that have been to the events, the Empower Network events, can see how powerful that is. I have been to conferences before where, it's a big group, 5, 10, 15,000 people there, all working for the same company and everything else, but they don't have the same common goals. Their goals are all different. Some want to make money, some want to become popular, some want to look good. With Empower Network, everyone wants to be successful and make money, and honestly, I think they want to have a good time doing it, and that's what helps with the event. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make, I'll pass this on to Gary Smith here, is that again, the common denominator of coming together in a group with the same ideas is very, very powerful, and that aspect gives you a lift, if you will, and a leg up moving forward, with your goal of building your own home-based business using the Empower Network products and selling the Empower Network products for a profit as well. Mr. Smith, do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, it's
it's just the group thing is really, really good, and like you said, trying to start out on your own is way, way tough. When you have the momentum of a group and exposure is everything with this internet thing, and you know, the more exposure you can get, the better off you are. And we're looking for leaders on this panel. I'll just go ahead and launch right into this thing, Mike. It won't take very long. I've got a great story that ties all this kind of together, and it's a little different. It's not so much internet marketing, but it's the drive and the type of people that we're looking for, and we're looking for leaders to come, you know, on this panel and be part of our group and everything. And where will you find those leaders? You never know where you're going to find the leaders. Back in 1983, and this is a true story, there was a waitress at Denny's. And this gal didn't want to be a waitress at Denny's. She wanted to own Denny's. And she's 23 years old and looked like she was 12. And she just kept pushing. And finally they said, okay, we got this store that's kind of losing its tail down, I forget where. Mike, she ended up in your neck of the woods. But they finally give her a store, and she'd go in, and she said she, you know, had to go in and get the money for the bank, you know, and she said it was really tough because they'd look at her. She was 23 years old, and she looked like she was 12, you know, on those, kind of like my daughter. And so she just had a hell of a time, but she would not take no for an answer. She just kept pushing. Okay, and why is this story relevant to us here? Because now she ended up getting her first store. Then she got 3 stores. They gave her 3 more that were all losers, and she made them profitable. Now she owns 75 Denny's franchises in 3 different states, down in your neck of the wood, Texas, and I think Arizona and New Mexico, I think was the 3 states, Mike, because this gal would not take no for an answer. You know, and now they're asking her to speak, and she says, what they say, you know, we finally realized, you know, that this is a man-dominated business of owning multiple stores, but here you are, you own more than anyone else in America. And she started out as waitress. Okay, this gal knew that she was going to be a leader from the very beginning, and that's kind of the same thing that we do here. With that same story in our waitress, we're looking for waitresses. We're looking for whoever is not happy with whatever they got going on, but they can produce. They can come out. They can not take no for an answer. They get beat down and get back up and keep going. And so that's what we're doing. We're looking for leaders here. And you know, there's a lot of people that make $1 million a year online. And I always tease and joke about, you know, you've all seen the pictures where you got the computer screen and it's got money just dripping out of it, you know, shooting out of it. That really doesn't happen, guys. But it does in a way that, you know, you look at your PayPal account or whatever, or Empower Network always sends me every Friday I get that deal, you know, you're going to get money, and then Sunday it shows up in my account. And so that's how it does. You know, it doesn't really shoot out of the computer, but it does. So, but and a disclaimer there, you know, we can't guarantee that you'll make $1 million a year, you know, off of your computer, but you know, it's non-typical, but you can be the difference.
Yeah.
Okay, yep. There's my story.
Okay, good. Well, you know, I mean, it's a great example, and it's kind of interesting. If she was 23 years old, you know, back then, and she's accumulated those kind of assets, you know, during the period of time, then obviously she's doing something right, you know, and things are working well, you know, for her, and you know, doing what she needs to do to be successful, you know, and look at, you know, saying no, you know, I mean, you have to challenge authority at every turn. You know, I say not every turn, but most turns nowadays. You know, and don't take no for an answer. And that's exactly right. You know, and it's just unacceptable. You know, I mean, I had a good little story, a personal, you know, deal with mine, but I'd rather not get into that. You know, family wise, but. you know, being a good leader and you know, with us, you know, here with Team Certainty and Empower Network, being the leaders for you new members, you know, prospective new members, you know, coming on board, you know, is something that you know, we are, you know, proud to do, and that's our job as leaders here, being leaders, and that's part of the responsibility why we're growing this team. And again, we've mentioned several times, we do not want this to be the biggest team in Empower Network. We just want everyone here to make money, and it's not my responsibility other than to show you and to provide you with the knowledge and resources and training to make money. It's up to you as a individual, and just like Gary said, don't take no for an answer with the gal that he was talking about, you know, and whoever is saying no to you, you know, you won't get it from us, that's for sure. We want to help. We want everyone to make money with Team Certainty, and that is our goal. It's kind of the mantra of Team Certainty. You know, especially as you move into this iPass system and this new era with you know, with Empower Network, we'll be unleashed to the public in October in Orlando. So not the iPass 2, but the new system, or the new philosophy, direction, if you will. It's not even new. It's just a rebirth, if you will, of the Empower Network business model, and getting back to the basics. So, which will occur in October, the next Empower Network event, which we all will be at. Mr. Iron Dan Richards, you there? Are you with us?
I'm still here. I fell out and came back, so I'm back here. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have your screen share working?
Yeah, I sure do. Let's get her rolling here then.
Why don't you tee up that video? There's a little video I want everyone to watch, and it's really good. The guy's name is Simon Sinek. It's S-E-N-E-C-K, and yeah, it's not a very long video, but he talks about some really good things about leadership and business, and I encourage you to go to YouTube, punch in his name, and watch all of his TED and TEDx videos. The guy is very, very good. He's one of the few guys I like to watch on the internet. Typically, his message is very, very good, and it's very concise, and he's extremely focused, and you'll hear that in his language. Go ahead, Mr. Iron Dan Richards, tee it up if you can.
Are you looking at a full screen on mine?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I can't actually see anything, but Gary, are you good there?
Yeah.
My bandwidth is just nuts here. I'm not seeing much anything.
Okay, here we go, guys.
What I love about events like these, that it's not just people coming together
Can you hear
to hear
it?
ideas.
Yeah.
It's that we all came here for the same reason. Every single one of us came here because we share something. We have similar values and similar beliefs, and it's the reason we showed up. We don't know each other, and yet we know something about each other. Now, this is important, you see, because the very survival of the human race depends on our ability to surround ourselves with people who believe what we believe. When we're surrounded by people who believe what we believe, something remarkable happens. Trust emerges. Make no mistake of it, trust is a feeling, a distinctly human experience. Simply doing everything that you promise you're going to do does not mean people will trust you. It just means you're reliable. And we all have friends who are total screw-ups, and yet we still trust them. Trust comes from a sense of common values and beliefs. And the reason trust is important is because when we are surrounded with people who believe what we believe, we're more confident to take risks. We're more confident to experiment, which requires failure, by the way. We're more confident to go off and explore, knowing that there is someone from within our community, someone who believes what we believe, someone we trust and who trusts us, will watch our back, help us when we fall over, and watch our stuff and look after our children while we're gone. Our very survival depends on our ability to surround ourselves with people who believe what we believe. I'll share an example with you that freaks me out every time I talk about it. What's our most valuable possession on the planet? Our children, right? Our most valuable possession on the planet are our children. So let's game out a scenario. Let's imagine we want to go on a date. So we require a babysitter. We have two options. Option number one, there's a 16-year-old from just down the street from within the community with barely, if any, babysitting experience. There's a 32-year-old who just moved into the neighborhood. We don't know from where, but she's got 10 years of babysitting experience. Who do we choose? The 16-year-old. Think about that for a second. We'd rather trust our children, our most valuable possession on the planet, with somebody from within our community with no experience over somebody with vast amounts of experience, but we have no idea where they're from or what they believe. Then why do we do it differently at work? Why are we so preoccupied with someone's resume and where they've worked and what they've done for our competition, and yet we never think to consider what they believe, where they're from? How can we trust them? How can they trust us? The problem, most organizations, believe it or not, whether it's a community or a culture. What's a community? What's a culture? It's a group of people with a common set of values and beliefs, right? What's a nation? It's a group of people with a common set of values and beliefs. And the single biggest challenge that any culture or any organization will ever face is its own success. When an organization is founded, all organizations are founded on the same basic principles. There's some sort of measurement. It's often money, but it can be anything. And then there's time. And when an organization is founded, what they do and why they do it are inextricably linked. There are usually some founder or some small group of founders that are able to put their vision into words, and their passion inspires others to come and join them in pursuit of something greater than all of themselves. And they trust their guts, and off they go, and it's an amazing experience. The problem is, as they grow, as what they do becomes more successful, they can no longer rely on themselves. They have to now hire somebody who hires somebody who hires somebody who hires somebody who hires somebody who has to make a decision. Based on what? And what they do starts to grow, that metric. The problem is, why they do it starts to go fuzzy. And this is the biggest single challenge any organization will face. It's this thing right here, the thing that I call the split. Symptoms of the split inside an organization are when stress goes up and passion goes down. Symptoms of a split are things like when the old-timers, the people who were there from the founding, from the beginning, start saying things like, it's not like it used to be. It doesn't feel the same anymore. They can't quite put it into words, but they know it's not the same. Even though the organization might be more successful than it ever was in the past, it's just not the same. Other symptoms are when the organization starts focusing more on what the competition is doing and worrying less about what they are doing. When they start asking outsiders, who should we be? How should we talk to you? At the beginning, they never asked anybody. They ran on their own passion and their own energy. This is what happened in such organizations like Apple. In 1985, Steve Jobs left Apple, and the company went like this, and Steve Jobs came back. And Howard Schultz left Starbucks, and Howard Schultz had to come back. And Michael Dell left Dell, and Dell had to come back. Now, whether they're clear on their own whys now or not is yet to be seen. But the point is that these founders, these visionary guys, physically embody the reason, the cause around which people showed up in the first place, and it reminds them why they come to work. Now, my fear is that one of my favorite organizations, an organization that I love, may be going through a split. United States of America, maybe you've heard of it. It's important to study America because, like a lot of things that happen in America, everything there is exaggerated. So we can learn a lot from them and hopefully learn things that we can apply to ourselves. Something started to happen in 1947 that embodies this idea here. My grandparents' generation was called the greatest generation. That's what we call them, the greatest generation. Because here was a generation that went off to war to fight this great evil, and everybody was united and unified in some sense of common cause and purpose and belief, and trust was at an all-time high. Even those who didn't go off to war, they were back and they were buying war bonds, and everybody was one. And there are stories of young men who would commit suicide. They'd shoot themselves when they didn't get called to action. We call them the greatest generation. What do I get? I'm Gen X. The unknown variable. They get the greatest generation, I get X. My parents are called the boomers. Why? Because their parents were doing it when they came back from war. They get the greatest generation, this sense of purpose, this sense of cause, this sense of why. But then they came back from war, And most of them had grown up during the Depression, and they wanted to now experience life a little bit. They wanted to buy some stuff and sort of, care about themselves a little more. They've been giving so much their entire lives. And so the 1950s came. And the 1950s were defined by responsibility, going out there and giving the same kind of loyalty to your company as you gave to your country or to the cause. And we know what the 50s were like. Everybody gave and you devoted your life to the company. The problem is, as we started to become more affluent, and the wealth of the country started to grow, that sense of purpose and that sense of cause and that sense of fulfillment and that sense of trust and that sense of happiness didn't grow with it. And this is bad, this is confusing. And so the 1960s, we responded to it. And we thought, well, this responsibility thing didn't work, so let's try irresponsibility. And the hippie movement was born, right? And the reason the whole hippie movement could exist in the first place is because the country was wealthier, so we could afford for people to drop off the grid, and our parents were wealthier, they were more affluent, so they could pay for us to do it. But we didn't get that sense of fulfillment. And so the pendulum swung again. And then we had the 1970s, the me generation, defined about looking out for your own happiness, and everybody had to have a guru, and it started to become very, very selfish. That didn't really work either. And again, the whole time we're becoming more affluent, and yet that sense of fulfillment and happiness and trust is not growing with it. And then the 1980s, still that sense of me, but now business was cool again. And in the 1980s, we started to see something that had never been seen before. In the 1980s, we started to see companies using people to balance the books. This had never happened before, where they would use layoffs to make the numbers work. People to make numbers work. And then the 1990s came about, and .com, about the most selfish behavior you could find. Everyone wanted to get rich regardless of anything else. And again, the split continues. The only thing that happens, the only thing that really grows in organizations or societies that go through a split is that the distrust increases. We become distrustful of each other inside our own organizations. We become distrustful of management. We become distrustful of our politicians. And now we find ourselves here today, wondering what's going to do next. How are we going to find the sense of fulfillment? Technology is no help. Andy Grove, the founder of Intel, said that the only thing that the microprocessor ever did was make things go faster. And he's right. And it's making this go faster as well. Don't forget, technology is absolutely fantastic for the exchange of information, the exchange of ideas. Technology is absolutely wonderful for speeding transactions. It's wonderful for resourcing and finding people, but it is terrible for creating human connections. You cannot form trust through the internet. There's something called a mirror neuron, which they've recently discovered. That's one of the things that contributes to how people relate to each other and how we empathize. It's the feeling you get. It's the same part of the brain that lights up. They did these pictures where they did MRIs. They gave people a picture of someone smiling. And then in our own brains, when we see someone smiling, the same part of the brain lights up when we smile. It's what creates empathy. And it's necessary to create trust. Again, this very human bond. This isn't a video conference. Will never replace the business trip. You can't get a good gut feeling over a video conference. And I'm a big fan of the blogosphere. The bloggers think that the internet is the end-all, be-all of the world. Then explain to me why once a year, 20,000 bloggers descend on Las Vegas for a huge, big convention. Why didn't they just do it online? It's because nothing replaces human contact. It's the difference between leadership and authority. Leadership tells us why we're here in the first place. They remind us why we came here. Authority tells us what to do or tells us what goal to achieve. In the 1960s, Stanley Milgram did an experiment that we consider now quite unethical, but the results were remarkable. He invited two people to come to his laboratory, someone who played the role of the teacher, a volunteer, and someone who played the role of the student, who was actually a scientist pretending to be a volunteer. They told the teacher to sit in front of a counter that had a button and a dial. And they said that they were going to ask some questions of the student. And if the student answered the wrong question or refused to answer, the teacher was to press the button and administer an electric shock. And after each shock, they were to turn up the dial one notch. And the notch said, mild, medium, slightly painful, slightly more painful, very painful. And eventually, it went red and said XXX. And what happened was there's only really one electric shock administered throughout the whole experiment, and it was a small shock administered to the teachers so they could see what it felt like. And so the experiment would progress, and the questions would be asked, and the teacher would press the button, and the scientist pretending to be the student would pretend to get an electric shock. What ended up happening was that when the student could see and hear the student when the teacher could see and hear the student, they would scream. He couldn't go very far before he quit. He said, I can't do this anymore. I'm hurting the guy. And he would quit the experiment. When he could see him but not hear him, he could go further but still not very far before he quit. And the authority figure would stand over him every time he would say, but I'm hurting the guy. The authority figure would say, it's imperative that the experiment goes on. And they would say over and over and over in their heads, the experiment must go on. They'd say it out loud, the experiment must go on. And it was like Nazi Germany when people said, I'm just following orders. I'm just following orders. They had this mantra to justify their behavior of hurting somebody. And then when they could hear them but not see them, they could go further still, but they still couldn't go all the way. But when they could neither see nor hear the impact of their decisions, 65% of the teachers were able to kill the guy. The reason the experiment is unethical is because 65% of these people that came to help, thinking that they were good people, went home at the end of the day with the knowledge that they could kill someone. Now, what's our mantra of this day and age, I wonder? Is it shareholder value, shareholder value, shareholder value? What is our mantra that we're using to justify the decisions we're making of people that we cannot see and that we cannot hear, and we don't know the impact of the decisions we're making? And you know what the people who had killed the guy, what their biggest concern was? Is anything going to happen to me? Am I going to get into trouble? There was no concern for the person they just potentially killed. Now think about how we do business today. We largely do business on screens. There was a time that if you wanted to know what your employees thought about you, you walked out on the factory floor and you asked them. Customer service meant actually talking to the people who came into your shop. Now customer service means getting a reply to your email within 24 hours. I actually saw a bank advertising that you could talk to a person. I fly on an airline and I have miles up the wazoo on this one airline, and you know what they offered me when I reached the highest status possible? They offered me a phone number that I could talk to a person. Since when is a person a luxury? Our very survival depends on our ability to interact with human beings, and as growth and scale and size come into play, all of a sudden, the humanity of things starts to go away. There is a time when a desktop meant something horizontal. Now it means something vertical. And a folder used to be a picture of something that we used to use. These are fun ideas, fun examples of how technology has co-opted some of our vocabulary. The problem is it's co-opted some other ideas too. A friend is not somebody you check their status. Your network is not on LinkedIn. A conversation doesn't happen on a blog, and you can't have a discussion on Twitter. These are human experiences, and we need them. We need to learn about each other's values and beliefs, and we can't simply do it through the internet. These mirror neurons don't light up when we're sending texts or receiving IM messages. What I imagine is a day in which we start to have more human interaction, something that requires this thing, a handshake. A handshake. Imagine that you want to do business with somebody, and they're standing there with you, and they agree to all the terms that you offer. 100% they agree. And you say, great, let's shake on it. And they say, no, I agree to all the terms you laid out. We can just do business. And you go, good, if we agree, then let's shake on it. And they say, no, I agree to all the terms. Let's just do business. If they refuse to shake your hand, even though rationally speaking they've agreed to everything you want, if they refuse to shake your hand, the odds are you won't do business with them, and if you do, you'll feel very nervous about it. This is what trust is. Trust is human. It's about human interaction. It's about real conversations. What we need is more handshake conversations. What we need is more handshake discussion, more handshake debate, more handshake friends, more handshake leadership. If we don't, then we continue to go through this, and we will not find our own sense of fulfillment and happiness and inspiration. It requires being amongst people who believe what we believe. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. let me do a few things here. A little bit of that's out. You know, that was a little bit outdated, but you know, the point interaction. Thank you, Mr. Iron Richards.
Oh yeah,
Appreciate it. You know, the interaction of humans is very important. Now, that was done prior to being able to do Google Hangouts. And when you're on the internet and when you have clients around the world, it's very difficult to get face-to-face and handshake. You know, but when you have the internet, you know, tools like these Google Hangouts, where people can get to know us, it's not just an email going back and forth. And as Gary Smith mentioned earlier about the leadership qualities of people, you know, we are looking for more leaders here at Team Certainty. And the final thing I wanted to say that this Simon Sinek, which is his name, he had it spot on when he talked about bloggers. It's kind of ironic, right? He was talking about bloggers, you know, getting together once a year, you know, in Las Vegas. And he said, why don't they just do it online? Well, they can do it online. You know, they probably do it online. We do it online. But the human interaction of the events, like the one coming up in October, in October with Empower Network, is paramount, not only for us as team leaders to be there, but for our team to be there, and for you as joining tonight and joining our team with Empower Network here at Team Certainty to be there as well. And the breakthroughs and the when you're around, which is going to be 10 or 15,000 people there that are that have all the common denominators, the same thought patterns in regards to entrepreneurialism, and you're running your own business and with Empower Network, it's an amazing environment to be part of. Any comments there, Mr. Iron Richards? You haven't had a chance to talk tonight at all?
Oh, not to worry. But you know, the one thing about it is that, you know, a lot of what he's talking about is true. You know, when you have that contact and you have that real interaction. But the one thing about it in what we do is that becomes contagious. You know, whether you use it or you don't use it, it's contagious. And, you know, the more interaction I have with clients, and, you know, it's really funny as I get some of them that, you know, they only understand is a text message. And I'm like, well, you know what that thing is? They call it a phone. You know, you can talk on it today. So we can have that little bit more of a interaction. But I think that's really important what he was saying earlier. You know, to lead from the front means that you're going to have to direct, and you're also have to communicate with the people that you're directing. And, you know, I believe everything what he was saying in there about, you know, you lose effectiveness when you don't have that kind of empathy. So, I mean,
really, it's a perfect setup. Empower Network has the perfect setup where, you know, they do their Monday night conference calls. You know, all teams do our Google Hangouts, which are all stepping up. We're all doing a lot more of them. And I see the Empower Network, entire Empower Network organization, you know, doing many more Google Hangouts ever than they did in the past. You know, and then we do the face-to-face, you know, 2 or 3, 4 times a year, at least 2 or 3 times a year. Is how they're going to have it. I'm curious on how it's going to be in 2015. But here in 2014, we got together 6 times. 6 times, and and so you know, it's going to be very interesting going into this final event here in October. You know, here in 2014, as they plan out, which they will do, you know, and share with us in October what 2015 is going to look like. Your thoughts, Mr. Smith?
You know, that's kind of got my head reeling, the whole thing. I've got several different, you know, outlooks on that. I understand 100% now why the magic is in the events, you know, and before, you know, this is a main component of that. And I just had a deal with a guy. I put together a business deal with the guy, and I've never met him. And, you know, right toward the end, he said, you know, I love everything that you said and proposed on this partnership that we're forming, but the only part that bothers me, I've never met you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, and you know, it was almost a showstopper, you know, for the deal, but we went ahead, and now he's as happy as a lark, you know, and I probably should get him on a hangout, you know, and meet the guy and stuff. he's like super busy, and that's what we're having. And do you know another thing too? How rude people can be texting.
Oh yeah.
Almost like the shocking the dude to death, because you don't see him, you're not talking to him. There's no touching or seeing or feeling, or hearing. So you can just shock them to death with a text message, And I've had that. I thought, you son of a bitch, pick up the phone and talk to me. Let's see if you're that ballsy.
Well, the point that Simon was making, and I do. We're all three seasoned businessmen, and been around the block, many times before, and there comes a time in a transaction or dealings in your business dealings where you say to yourself, a face-to-face wouldn't hurt right now. It's important for a face-to-face. We all three can agree that a face-to-face, typically so much more happens and so much more gets done at a face-to-face. There's sometimes where the value, of moving forward is more important than the face-to-face, and that's where, Gary, you and your transition with your just recent transaction guy. The value of moving forward was much greater, and it was, and both parties are willing to take the risk. But I'd be willing to bet if there were some blemishes, somewhere along the line, both parties would want to get together and talk face to face before you ink the deal. But as you become more seasoned in business, like all three of us have or are, you become more cognizant of and more of a judgment of character, on what is right. You're willing to take the chance. But I got to tell you this, many times recently in the last probably 5 years, where transactions or opportunities have come to me, especially in my mergers and acquisition business, where I won't do a deal without getting face to face with somebody. It's just I won't do it. A lot of times it is to protect my clients, but a lot of times I just got to see the other side. I can picture the other side, but I have to see the other side to to be able to emotionally move forward. And that's what being face-to-face means, and look, man, when we go to these Empower Network events, we do our thing, we do our team certainty, activities there and everything else, it's a social event, let's not be mistaken, it is a social event, but there's quite a bit of camaraderie and seeing old friends that you haven't seen in a while. And this one coming up in October will be a good one. Will be a very good one, and I'm very much looking forward to being there. So should work out well with all the things we have planned as well. You guys have any closing comments on leadership? Here I need to talk a little bit about iPass. Is there anything you guys want to chat about leadership before we throw it around for last call or anything?
I just kind of want to wrap that up a little bit. I spent my morning and most of my afternoon today meeting people in China and trying to put together a link with a cable manufacturer. And I think I got it done, and I found a couple, but it's so funny because this is exactly the dilemma that I'm going through, and the uncomfort that I feel is because of the non-face-to-face, but I just can't do a China thing. There's no way. There's just no way in heck. And especially it's a big deal, but it's not a big deal. You know what I mean? It's just stuff that I need to get lined up for Christmas and my eBay stuff, and I've been meaning to do it for a year and a half and just never buckled down, and boy, I got into it, and I tell you what, a couple of them even started calling me. I put out feelers to 126 people, and my inbox was just flooded this morning, and I started weeding through them, and then I started contacting them on what it is that I'm looking for, and just, I tell you, the world is a changing place, and that was funny that video, and you guys were thinking the same thing and everything, and all this is falling into exactly what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis right now. Yeah. And dealing with people. I've done more dealing today than back when I was doing face-to-faces. I could have got accomplished in a month. I did that much in one day today.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's an evolving. I understand every bit of it, and I see a huge window of opportunity in video marketing. Just huge.
Yeah, and Iron and Richard and I discussed on Saturday morning, the mindset of resources and the mindset of limited resources or limited thinking or living in a world, where you think there's limited resources, or there's no money, there's no jobs, blah 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 blah. It's very easy to fall into that rut, if you will.
Yeah.
Even when economic numbers come out saying they're all great and everything else, well, then why is my bank account full? And I haven't mastered that, but I got to tell you, I'm very, very good at it, and understanding that, I believe I live in a world, unlimited wealth, unlimited resources, unlimited time, and unlimited health. And you just have to understand that technology moves so fast, especially in the age that we're living in right now, where there's no way on earth we could. Oil is a great example. Everyone says we're going to run out of oil. That's nonsense. The technology is going to advance so much in the next 200 years that we'll probably have cars that run on, that get 300 miles to a gallon. Maybe not in my lifetime. I mean, this is where you would buy a dealership. That's assuming we're still using oil as a fossil fuel for transportation, which I doubt. My guess is that's going to change in my lifetime. That's going to change, but probably at the very end of my lifetime, assuming I live as old as Gary. No, I'm just kidding. But the changes that we have to, that we're going to deal with, is you have to live in a world of abundance. You have to understand that technology and everything else is moving so fast that there's always an abundance of whatever you need: money, time, effort, whatever. Now, the only one I will say there's a little bit of issue with is time. There may be an abundance amount of time now, but that time will come to an end. And whereas we can visit our grandchildren and spend all the time we want to, with our leader or with our children now, but as leaders and as leaders of the family and stuff, that time will come to an end, and so take advantage of it now. Enjoy the journey, as I tell my children and ones that are close to me. So, look, it's at the top of the hour now. I need to throw in some iPass stuff. Then we can throw it around for the last call. And next week I think we will talk about that abundance lifestyle. There's some really, in fact, there's a great video I want to show on that as well. But there's some great stories that I have about having the focus of mindset of abundance and waking up every morning, doing a few rituals, mental sayings, and understanding that what are you going to get out of the day. I talk about 18,400 seconds every day, abundance of time. There's abundance of wealth is what I want to focus on. And for viewers, I think it helps, for prospective new members to understand living in a mindset of abundance of wealth, will help you move along forward, with our team and be successful with Team Survey and Empower Network. We haven't mentioned the buttons below. That's how to sign up tonight. All you can spend is $25 to get started tonight. And your sponsor will go to it. And as well, the earning disclaimer is down below as well. iPass 2, for those of you that are interested, which everyone is, with iPass 2, I did get a minor update today, and they're getting closer and closer. Still no date is set, but they're waiting on 2 final approvals from Empower Network's compliance department. And then they've got the green light. That's assuming they don't do any changes. That's what scares me more than anything. But we're getting closer and closer to the launch, and it's right around the corner. So here it is, come the end of August or end of July, and going into the 1st of August. Could it be the 1st of August? First Monday in August maybe. Which is the 8th, I think. 8th, I think. Yeah, next week. We'll see, but be prepared. As soon as we know, we'll get advance warning by a few days, I'm sure. So as soon as we know, I'll let everyone else know via email, and obviously we'll announce it here too. So, did you guys get any updates on iPass or iPass 2 or anything?
I haven't.
Okay.
My China connection. Anything about that?
Yeah. I hear you. All right. Well, let's just throw around the last call here, Mr. Gary Smith. Why don't you start off, pass it on to Mr. Iron Dane Richards, and we'll hear a good quote he has, and then I'll close it down for the night.
Hey guys, this has been fun. It's touched on some stuff that has been forefront in my day-to-day life, and I didn't even realize it. I didn't spend any time thinking about it, and all these different things. And then the subject for next Wednesday that we've picked on abundant wealth is okay. Hey, one of the fastest growing religions in America today is pretty much preaching that God's okay with you living very comfortable on earth. He's okay with that. and a lot of people think that they're guilty if you make that kind of money. Well, not so much. God's okay with that. And we'll visit about that more Wednesday, but this has been fun, just a powerful hangout. And I'll leave you with one little thought here. I'll go ahead and make a prediction on that energy thing, Mike, that you touched on there a little bit. One of the most powerful forms of energy that we have, and it's completely untouched. Nobody's even looked at it at all. And you can play this back, in 2050 or whatever, and go, hey, Smith was right. The magnetic field. Once somebody figures out how to tap the energy in the magnetic field of the Earth, I mean, look what it does when a cloud bumps together and that lightning comes down. What trigger, whatever amount of energy comes out of that when it grounds to the magnetic field of the Earth. Once somebody figures that out and how to make hover vehicles, with that magnetic field, your energy thing is over. It's here, it's around us every day. Static electricity in your hair. Once somebody figures that out, there's one of the biggest untapped sources of energy. Free. So that's my quote.
Okay. Mr. Iron Dane Richards?
Well, here, Gary, here's one thing, this little trivial thing like that for energy. Did you know if you could put a muzzle on the face of a cow and a collector on the back of a cow, that they release so much methane per day, you could operate a regular household on the methane exchange?
Yeah, there's some of the corrals I've been in that probably could have fueled.
I know a few humans like that.
So I'd sure hate to see you out there tying up one of those poor cows and hooking hoses to it.
Yeah. Jackie's got awful careful to tell me, that we need gas in the car. It's always fuel,
Petro, yeah, Petro.
But anyway, I guess the best quote I could say tonight is like Henry Ford always used to say: if you think you can or you think you can't, you know what? You're right. And that's the most powerful one that I believe in for mindset or whatever else. Is that it's the belief in the beginning whether you can make it happen or not. I mean, I've been struggling with a deal for 3 weeks. It's finally come together. And it's had its bumps and ups and downs. It's had its high points. It's like a novel, through some of it. But it's just the belief of keeping my belief. Somehow we're gonna figure out how to get this thing done. The group's gonna get it done.
Just like the little waitress, she's not hearing no. She's looking for a yes.
Yeah.
That got her to where she is looking for the yes, not the no's.
Yeah, failure's not an option.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a great mindset. You kind of chuckle about it, but World War II movies. I always like watching World War II movies, primarily the European corridor movies, on how and watch those leaders, those guys. I know it's movies and everything else, but that great. And he talked about that, the great generation, and then the baby boomers. Which I'm part of. What it's meant. All three of those guys are part of the baby boomers, and
result of.
And what our parents went through, and we see now how kids, act, and we never would have gotten away with any of that stuff. Hell, we'd have been tarred and feathered, kicked out on the streets, if we had tried anything like that with my parents.
The little waitress, and when they finally got her to speak, they said, "What's your biggest challenge today?" And she said, "Employees, hands down." She said that the employees today are nothing like it was when I was working.
Yeah.
When I was waitressing, she said,
Yeah, they're more work.
challenge.
Yeah.
That's my
Absolutely.
biggest challenge.
Okay. Well, again, the next Wednesday night, our theme is going to be, the abundance lifestyle and the abundance, mindset. I've got some really, really good stories to tell, and I think one video we'll show as well that'll really kind of settle in with, how to wake up and go about your day, with that mindset, especially with Empower Network. It's not geared toward Empower Network or anything like that, but when you identify with it, what we're doing here at Team CERTI, outside of Empower Network and with the Empower Network products, it's hard not to, live an abundance, mindset. Unlimited inventory, that's a little hint. It's quite a bit of abundance there when it's unlimited. So I'll leave it at that. But thank you, viewers. Thank you, Mr. Iron Dan Richards. Thank you, Mr. Iron Dan Richards and Mr. Gary Smith. For tonight, and thank you, viewers, for staying with us. Again, we do these Google Hangouts twice a week. We do them this time period from 8 to 9 Central Time here in the United States, and also on Saturday mornings from 11 to 11:30 Central Time, Saturday mornings. And that's a question and answer period, and that's what the tab is on the side of your broadcast page here. Just click that tab, punch in your question, support will answer it, and then they'll send it to us, and we'll answer live if they deem it appropriate. For the masses and we'll announce it and talk about it and discuss it Saturday mornings. And that's the next time we'll be back. We'll be back here Saturday morning, the same website you're looking at now. We'll be back Saturday morning. So enjoy your rest of your evening, if that's what it is, where you are in the world. And thank you again, for the time spending with us tonight. And thank you, fellas. And we'll see you Saturday, this coming Saturday. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Okay. Take care. See you guys.